the meeting to order. Board of Court reporting at 9:09 a.m. on September 22nd, 2017, in conference room 4A of Davy Crockett Tower at 500 James Robertson Parkway, Nashville, Tennessee. I'm going to call the roll. I'm Britton Collins, Chairman, present in person. Ken Gibson, are you present?
I'm here.
All right, Ken Gibson is present via telephone. Earl Houston?
Present.
Earl Houston is present in person. Judge Rambo?
Present on the phone.
Judge Rambo is present via telephone. Ken Mansfield? Ken Mansfield is not present. Terry Beckham? Terry Beckham is not present. We have 4 members present, so I find we have a quorum, so we'll move forward with the meeting. I will recognize Glenn Kupchak to perform the statement of necessity and the notice of meeting.
Thank you, Chairman. The notice of September 22nd, 2017 meeting of the Court Reporters Board was posted to the Court Reporters Board website September 14th, 2017. The statement of necessity is as follows. According to TCA 844-108B2, if a physical quorum is not present at the location of a meeting of a governing body, the governing body must file such determination of necessity, including the recitation of the facts and circumstances on which it was based, with the Office of Secretary of State no later than 2 working days after the meeting. Furthermore, TCA 8-44-108A3 defines necessity as matters to be considered by the governing body at the meeting require timely action by the body, that physical presence by a quorum of the members is not practical within the period of time requiring action, and that participation by a quorum of the members by electronic or other means of communication is necessary. This is the regularly scheduled meeting for the Tennessee Board of Court Reporting, and the purpose of today's meeting, with some members attending by teleconference, is to discuss the agenda as noticed on the website earlier. If we could move to the agenda, there's just one amendment that I'd like to recommend, and of course any recommendations by the board are always welcome, was to move the legal report for next in line before the March minutes and the rest of the order. Is there any other comments in regards to that?
Fine with me.
Not me either.
Okay. Somebody wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we amend the agenda to move the legal report to the next item on the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Earl Houston, second. I'll call the roll. Obviously, aye. Vote in favor. Ken Gibson?
Aye.
Ken Gibson votes aye. Earl Houston?
Aye.
Votes aye. Judge Rambo?
Yes.
Aye. All right, the motion passes 4-0. So we will proceed to the legal report.
So yes, on the legal report, I believe this was all provided to all of the board members prior to today's meeting. What I can do is read the case number, give the board members a chance to kind of review it again if they need to, ask any questions, and then I'll answer the questions you all may have. First case is 2017-3.
Are you gentlemen on the phone? You had it, obviously, I know you've already read through the report, but would you like us to read through it again or summarize, or is there anything like that that would assist you in that?
I'm okay with no reading.
Okay.
Ken Gibson, I'm okay with just reading. I mean, not reading.
Okay. Judge Rambo?
I agree.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, did you all have any questions about the case or my recommendation?
Ken Gibson, no.
Do we want to vote on these cases individually or go ahead and go through the entire legal report?
We've typically done them one by one. I prefer to keep doing it that way because there have been disagreements at times over some of this.
I'll read the recommendation into the record. My recommendation is to issue a letter of warning regarding Tennessee Code annotated 20-9-612 regarding the license renewal. As to the alleged violations of the standards of conduct, Tennessee Code annotated 20-9-606 requires the complaint be submitted within 90 days of the conduct complained about. This complaint was submitted on April 10th, 2017, regarding violations that allegedly occurred on August 26th, 2016. Therefore, that recommendation would be to close as it relates to that part of the complaint.
We have a motion?
This is Ken Gibson. I make a motion that we adopt the recommendation of the recommendation.
Second by Judge Rambo.
Okay, we have a properly seconded motion to accept the recommendation of council. I'll call the roll. Britton Collins, I vote aye. Ken Gibson?
Aye.
Earl Houston?
Aye.
Judge Rambo?
Aye.
All right, the motion passes 4-0 to accept disciplinary counsel's recommendation on complaint number 2017-3.
Next case on the legal report is case number 2017-7. My recommendation is to close.
This is Ken Gibson. I make a motion to adopt the recommendation.
Is there a second?
Earl Houston, I second the motion.
Okay, I will call the roll. Britton Collins, I vote aye. Ken Gibson?
Aye.
Earl Houston?
Aye.
Judge Rambo?
Aye.
All right, the motion passes 4-0 to accept disciplinary counsel's recommendation for case number 2017-7. Okay.
Case number 3 is case number 2017-04. Recommendation of counsel is to close.
Ken Gibson, I make a motion to adopt the recommendation of counsel.
Judge Rambo, second.
Okay, we have a properly seconded motion. I'll call the roll. Britton Collins votes aye. Ken Gibson?
Aye.
Earl Houston?
Aye.
Judge Rambo?
Aye.
All right, the motion passes 4-0 to accept disciplinary counsel's recommendation for case number 2017-04.
The final case on the legal report is a represent from the last meeting. It is case number 2017-2. Counsel's new recommendation is to close.
I did have a question about this. How did this come about? As far as getting from a point where it was presented to us and we didn't have any, we have the database of the licenses, right? So it gets presented to us to the point that we have to make a recommendation on a consent order, but then she shows up as a license. How do we not have records of that we can cross-check with the complaint?
So that was part of when the onboarding within the division from, where did? ALC. ALC. Yeah. So there were some records that got lost in the transition, I guess. So when she provided a copy of the license, I confirmed.
Okay.
So another reason why we're moving to electronic system too as a backup. And we'll have that, I think, I guess later on in the agenda. We'll move on from there, but we'll talk about some of that a little bit more detail.
Okay.
This is Ken Gibson. I have a question. Was the fine paid?
No.
So are we saying then that there is no willful violation of practicing without a license?
Correct. So when I originally presented this case, I received information that the respondent was unlicensed. When I sent out a consent order, the respondent actually provided a copy of her license, which we did not have a record of because of the transition when we moved over from ALC.
Okay.
So I told her, as soon as she provided a copy of her license, I told her to hold off on that consent order so I could represent this case.
Okay, so she got her license in a timely manner.
Correct.
I guess she had already had it to begin with.
I see.
Right. We just didn't have a record of it.
It's kind of an administrative mix-up in the transition.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a motion with respect to case number 2017-02?
Judge Rambo
This-
moves to adopt the recommendation.
Ken Gibson, I second. Ken Gibson.
Okay. We have a properly seconded motion. I'll call the roll. Britton Collins votes aye. Ken Gibson.
Aye.
Earl Houston.
Aye.
Judge Rambo.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0 to accept disciplinary counsel's recommendation on case number 2017-02.
And that concludes the legal report.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. So next we will move to review of March meeting minutes.
Did you gentlemen have any question on the March minutes?
This is Ken Gibson. I do not have any questions.
Judge Rambo, did you have any recommendations for amendment or any questions?
No, I'll move to approve them as distributed.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I second. Ken Gibson.
All right, we have a properly seconded motion to approve the March meeting minutes. I'll call the roll. Britton Collins votes aye. Ken Gibson.
Aye.
Earl Houston.
Aye.
Judge Rambo.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 4-0 to approve the March meeting minutes as written. All right, next, I guess, Glenn, are you doing the director's report? All right, I'll recognize Glenn to do the director's report.
All right, gentlemen. Typically, since, as you are all aware, we don't get the opportunity to meet but twice a year, so we started a new fiscal year, and so we only had 1 month to report. So I went ahead and included the report for the entire year prior to as well to give us a better picture of what's going on and what our fiscal strength looks like. Before we jump in, if you would indulge me a little bit, I'll just kind of drill down on what those remind us as a refresher too, what some of these line items mean, and coming together kind of gives an explanation and a context for those totals. First of all, I'll start out with the totals, read them in the record initially, and then on the heels of that, kind of explain a little further. If we can, we'll start with the year strength. We'll just start with the year totals. If you'll notice that the revenues were $22,865, and then the expenses were $16,947, leaving us a net surplus last year of $5,918. Now, if we look at the next month, which is the new fiscal year, you will see a revenue of $1,000 and Edison, or excuse me, expenses to include Edison of $1,067 with a net deficit of $51. Now, if we can go back to the trending report with the prior fiscal year, we are a little bit at a disadvantage since we took on the court reporters in 2016. We don't have a lot of trending analysis that we can look at, but we do have a little. Let me just explain, first of all, some of those line items initially. For the revenues, licensing revenue and case revenue, that's typically what comes to us, for renewals, applications, those types of things. Also, your case revenue would be folks that would pay a consent order or something to that effect. The state rec fee, you're probably wondering why in the revenue you would have a what appears to be a deficit. Well, that's not a true expense, because what that is we pay $5 per year per license on renewals to fiscal and administration, finance and administration rather. And it's really a workaround for us. It's really a reduction of revenue. It's a workaround because Commerce and Insurance can't bill reg fees directly, so Finance and Administration does that for us. So it's really kind of an in-house type arrangement. But they $5 per license printed. That's what that is. Also, the expenses, the Edison expenditures are basically payroll is what we're looking at there. That's all allocated through Edison. And then now the one line item that we get a lot of questions about is administrative cost backs. And the administrative cost backs are basically court reporters are on a 2-year renewal cycle. Next May and June, we will see a significant increase in revenue to covering net deficits that may occur. So if you see some of that red and are concerned about that, we're thinking that in May and June, based on prior trends that we do have and based on the renewal cycle, that we'll see an increase in revenues there. So, but the administrative cost backs in particular basically they include the court reporter's share of the liquidation of all administrative cost back from all the programs. The share is determined by license count, number of complaints, and budget plan, which accounts for when you're talking about court reporters, it is 0.14%. It's not even a percent, it's 0.14%. Whereas if you compared that to one of our larger programs like cosmetology and barber, they're looking at 16% of administrative cost backs just because they have 60,000 licensees, they have more complaints. So which resulted this month in a amount of $253 out of $175,000 in the total programs. So that's what that is. And the administrative cost backs, and I just printed out a list because I wanted to give you an idea of what those are items like travel, printing, utilities, fuel, community. Basically, anytime we touch a program, those are administrative cost backs. And those are distributed across the programs based on that formula. Again, number of licensees, complaints.
So that could change from year to year.
That's
Your
right.
percentage allocation, say we got a year where we had a ton of complaints or something.
Mm-hmm. But with our number of licensees, even proportionally with the complaints,
right.
I can't see it ever, reaching beyond that 1%. It may flux, within that 0.14, but I wouldn't see a significant increase in there based on the number of licensees.
Are the Edison expenditures allocated similarly?
They are.
That's the payroll, right? And
yes, sir, they are, absolutely.
Looking at licensing and case revenue, the historical trend.
Yes, sir.
So total revenue for 2016 was $84.45.
Yes, sir.
All right. And we're at a deficit right now?
Well, that was just that's a running revenue. Running surplus is what you're looking at. So just last year we were in a surplus of 5,000 added to that 84.
Okay.
And then right now this beginning of this fiscal year we're in deficit of $51 is where we're starting. But as we've seen historically, that trending from what we do have thus far and what we project with the number of counts we have with the renewal coming up, I think even with this year, we're going to be in surplus again. And of course, but that's why we do the month too, because we can track that, and we're not waiting after a quarter, after a half a year, and then trying to be retroactive.
And that's because it's a 2-year renewal period.
Yes, sir.
As opposed to every year.
That's right. Yes, sir.
I think all of their licensees are pretty much on the same renewal cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the biggest point will come at
May and June.
May and June.
May and June, we should see a spike then. Okay. Did anyone have any questions regarding that?
Well, no, the math makes sense. I guess we've had this issue a number of times, and we've talked about it kind of tangentially in some of these meetings, but I guess this year is a down year for revenue for us. But our expenditures from year to year are going to stay relatively flat, right? They'll probably stay in the maybe $20,000 range is probably safe to say.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I got a text from Madeline. Judge Rambo, are you still there?
I can see on the computer that he's not here.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna
I can
pause
see that
it.
he's disconnected. Do we need to get him on a landline instead of a cell?
Yeah, I mean, I could put him on our phone and then just set him next to the recording if that works, if that's an issue.
No. The number we are calling him on, I believe, is a cell. I think he keeps dropping calls, which is why he's not in.
I got you.
I guess if we have a landline available for him, that may help.
He's in transit, so he may not be available to a landline. He might be in a place where we just may have to have him move to a place then where he can be where he can reception.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call him in one more time, and get him in.
Yeah, we're almost at the end of the meeting, so.
Okay, great.
I wanted to take the time to do the budget because we just don't get a chance to really deep dive into it a little bit.
2 20-minute meetings a year. There's not a lot of detail. Hey.
All right. There you go. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Judge Rambo. I know you got a chance to look at the budget. Did you have any questions? I kind of deep dived a little bit, but I'm free to answer any questions you might have in regards to that.
I heard what you said, and it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay.
So the question I was asking was, we run basically on a 2-year cycle, but our expenditures are basically the same. It's pretty flat from year to year, maybe $20,000, somewhere in that, right?
Right at it was last year was 16,900, so just under.
So maybe 15 to 25,000 in a given year, probably fluctuate somewhere between there. But on our down years on revenue, we're still bringing in 23,000, and then on our up years in revenue, we're bringing in 85,000.
Well, that's just the total reserve, or I guess, yeah, it's a cumulative from what we have thus far, yes.
Well, so I look at.
Yeah, you're right, 85.
So is that the 85 or the 8445? Is that the revenue from the total revenue from last fiscal year 2016, or is that our account balance at the end of 2016?
Account balance. That's the account balance.
You don't mind.
16. Yeah, it's the account balance. We're looking at 2016, gentlemen.
I'm just let me get to the point. Are we on this trend where we're just always going to be, sometimes $5,000, maybe sometimes $30,000 or $40,000 in the black on a year, and we're just money over here with no way to spend it? If that's our financial trajectory, then we need to do something.
Right.
I think there's no point. Then we got 2 options. We can either cut licensing fees to balance out our books, or we do what by statute we're asked to do with that money, which is set up this indigent court reporting fund or program to allow for, I guess, people on pauper's oath and things like that to get court reporting services subsidized through our program, which we've talked about, kind of tangentially in some meetings over the past several years. It's never come to fruition, but that's what statutes tell us we're supposed to do if we've got extra money. So if that's where our books are heading, then we need to do something about that, because there's no reason for us to have $2,000 in the bank account over here with absolutely nothing that we can do.
No, that's a great point. I'm glad you discussed that, and we're going to address that a little bit when we get to the core implementation reporting. There's a big chunk of that 80,000 is going to go towards that. Okay. So, and then after that, when that levels off, after we do the onboarding with core, And we can actually, this is a great transition to talk about for us. We'll just do that right now. I just wanted to provide a core update. I know right now we're using basically an Access database, and that's problematic primarily because if you notice in the legal report, we had a situation where we had one individual that fell through the cracks. Well, Access databases are they don't have the quite the hardened protection of what our core would be because we have a lot more folks that, a lot more, I guess, safety nets in place. Because Access database, you basically have one or two guardians. Human error, you can see where that could happen. Right. Whereas core, we have flags in place when there's inconsistencies or if there's manager approvals have to go in. There's certain authority levels. So that creates those safety nets that we need going forward. And that's really primarily in that onboarding, well, for our online renewals, why we're going towards core. And without selling core, we already have one. But we are one of the few programs that remain that had yet to go onboarding. Well, they're looking at a cost of probably somewhere anywhere between $30,000 to maybe $50,000. So that's going to take just for on. Once that's paid, we're done. Right, because we have to get a vendor and some business analysts to take care of that for us and to transfer that for us. So with that cost, that's going to take a big chunk and bite out of that. And once that levels off, it looks like we're fully operational, then we'll have a better picture of what the budget really looks like at that point.
What's our time frame for that?
And we actually got a response yesterday. We sent it out some time ago, but just kind of tracking that. And just let me refer to my notes real quick, and we'll just cover that. We're looking at probably, well, we got a business analyst that's coming out with a vendor that's already been approved, and they're coming out October the 3rd and the 4th to basically learn our end of the process, what we want out of it, what our end game is, so that they can cater to that regard. And so I'd say we're hoping by the end of the year.
Okay. By our next meeting, we should have an idea of where we stand on that.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. But yeah, it is one of the top 5 IT priorities. We have 5 main priorities, and of course, we can walk and chew gum at the same time too. We can balance both of them. Out of IT, that's one of their top 5. So that's the part that's on their board. That's not we're thinking by the end of the year we'll be operational, and then like Chairman Collins has noted, we should have a better look at that budget.
So this is 17, and we're in a renewal. So we'll have 18, and 19 will be in a renewal. So it's feasible to say that we can make a decision depending on how much it costs, onboarding costs. We don't know what the exact cost is going to be yet.
It's pretty close. We think we're trying to keep it at 40, but sometimes that's business analysts. If they run into something that, based on the criteria that moves that cost or northward, that could affect it. Not like scatter the budget.
Probably going into 21. we could plan to reduce the fee.
Last year. My gift to the court.
That'll be your legacy.
I just don't. I'm all for lowering the renewal cost quarter. I don't want to do it based on a projection. I want to do it based on parts. So once we know what our numbers are, what we have to cover, then we can project from there and make a decision.
We'll just keep an eye on the numbers.
All right. While we're here, since we're talking about numbers, we'll just jump into the next issue that I think directly affects our court reporters out there in the field as well, and that's IDs. Now, I know Dennis and I, we were fortunate to go to the 2017 Tennessee Court Reporters Association annual convention this past June, and there was a great interest, as you folks also know, from our court reporters on the field for these IDs. Having been in criminal justice and obviously litigating, as some of you do, and the judge especially being in a courtroom, I can sympathize with the court reporters wanting that, those security checks, a little unique maybe from some of the other boards. However, and just to kind of, and this is open for discussion, I wanted to, of course, allow the board the opportunity to weigh in regarding Commerce and Insurance in particular at the higher executive level have been reviewing all IDs and license printing within all of the boards. And so we have expressed to them, and they've been limiting those printing and those IDs, but we have expressed that court reporters may be unique, and of course we want to allow you guys the opportunity to speak to that as well. So your thoughts, anything that you'd like me to express or carry forward to them as well, those would be welcome. Let me give you the cost. Let's do that first, because that might put things in perspective. The cost is not significant. It's $1,000 for the machine if we do one-sided printing, and $2,000 if we do two-sided printing. And then, of course, do that. I imagine that initially there'd be a lot more on the front end because we'd have to print all those licenses. So we're looking at I think a court reporter probably under 1,000, 900, something like that. Replacement. Other than that, your thoughts?
I can see the desire for it. The problem is government county, and even within each county, if you got multiple courthouses, it's courthouse to courthouse. The lawyers get into most of the courthouses with our board professional responsibility ID. They don't have to let them with that. I mean, that's not a courtesy that they extend to us, but it's not like the board of professional responsibility has control over AOC and courthouse security and things like that. So, it's certainly something that we could do to try to help them, but I don't think it's certainly not something that we can then force on the courthouses to accept as a means for them to get through. So, I guess it would be if we shoulder that expense as kind of a prayer that it might help some folks get in to some courthouses around the state. And, I guess maybe if they, as they become more common and courthouse security officers see them more, maybe they'll start to think there's something really official that they have to honor. But the legal impact of that ID is that. So, do we want to spend money on that?
Is there any kind of mass dissemination notice or, that we could provide through the AOC regarding the things, hey, here's a notice that court reporters are now going to have ID cards or license cards that they can show request security check in courthouse? Is that something?
If we were to, then we can do an email blast based on what we have in our license, what they provided. So yes, we can do that.
Try and coordinate that with AOC to see if they can disseminate that information down to the courthouse. I mean, that's the key is getting every, we got, 95 counties, 94, 95, whatever we're at now. A lot of courthouses, and security is different at every corner. I mean, some of them there's not a police officer inside, and but you go to Roane County and it's like trying to get into Fort Knox. So I mean, because they had a shooting at their courthouse, they take it very seriously. Right. You go to Sevier County and it's you can walk into anything, and so very different circumstance in every different county. So certainly we don't have the resources to make that information available. We wouldn't even know who to contact at each place. So there seems like some practical implementation problems associated with this. I'd be interested to hear Judge Rambo's thoughts on it as a judge in one of the courthouses who deals with the issues every day.
Yes. I actually serve on 3 county court security committees. The presiding judge in each judicial district serves as a member of the county court security committee. And what we do is we go over policies and procedures and equipment that we need to buy for court security. And I can tell you from the 3 court security committees that I'm on, that we talk about how do we identify lawyers who get in with maybe less scrutiny than citizens. We have talked specifically about getting court reporters in and not their equipment. So I think if we did have identification cards for court reporters, and each county is required to have a court security committee, if we communicated that our court reporters, if we do this, have these identification cards, and may even send a sample of what one looks like to the court security committee. The sheriff is on that committee, the DA, the mayor, various folks. We can adopt a policy and that would direct the bailiffs how to handle court reporters. Of course, it would be different in every county, and as you pointed out, some do more and some do less. But in a lot of counties that have active court security committees, it would be helpful to know and be able to identify who those court reporters are. And frankly, the bailiffs, they get used to who the attorneys are, but court reporters, some of them they're very used to, but then there's court reporters that we've never seen before that may be out of county with a different attorney that show up. That's unusual for that county.
But it sounds like it'd be a worthwhile endeavor. It's just we need to think through the steps about implementing it. And I think the key on our end would be communication to the court reporters that we're happy to do these cards. We'll communicate those down as Judge Rambo has suggested, but there's no guarantee that this is going to work. So you need to understand the limited authority the very limited authority that we have on this matter. And so, we're happy to do this as an accommodation, but it's really nothing more than that. And you shouldn't view it as just a free pass to get into any courthouse in the state.
Okay. I think it sounds like it may work just the opposite too. But once we put everybody on notice that court reporter is supposed to have his licensing card, how much doing of that? You're going to have reporters that get to seek interest and they don't have their card. I don't always have my bar card with me, and they get asked for it and they say, well, no, you can't enter because you don't have your card.
Right. And I think the only way to protect against that is to make it a requirement that they have it when they're serving, as a court reporter. You'd have to do that via rule. I think we'd also have to look at fees as well, because if we have to shoulder getting the printer and all of that, compare that with the onboarding of CORE and then the cost of printing these licenses for the individuals, maintaining that as well so that we don't go into a deficit. But the other side of that argument is we then have to convince Government Operations Committee that this increase in fee is something that is very necessary. And I think it'd probably be hard to do at this point with the surplus we have. But like you said, once we go through the renewal and we onboard everything, it may be an easier argument to make for a change in fee.
All we're talking about is trying to provide a mechanism whereby they can get into the courthouse with less security training. And so if they don't have, I don't like the idea of requiring them to carry the thing, because like Earl said, sometimes I forget I keep it in my wallet, but sometimes I take it out for whatever reason and I forget to put it back in. In Knox County, we have separate ID cards. Your bar card doesn't get you in Knox County. You got to have a separate ID card that's county issued, and sometimes I forget that. And the effect is I got to empty my pockets and take off my watch and that kind of stuff. And so, if they forget their cards, and they got to take all their stuff out of their pockets, and they just go through security like everybody else. So I'm not overly concerned about people getting denied access. I mean, it's still a public building that they're entitled to be in. It's just a question of how hard is it going to be for them to get in. They bring in a lot of equipment. I understand it can be quite onerous for them. But I think requiring them to have a card in order to get in or to, be compliant with our rules.
It's very instructive. Appreciate, everyone weighing in. We just wanted to make sure we had all the information as we go to the to that exec level that would make that decision ultimately, and just make sure that we were accounting for all the moving pieces. So thank you guys and thank you gentlemen on the phone as well for giving us that insight in that context. We appreciate it.
Do we need to have a vote with respect to that, or is that something that y'all just implement under your general authority?
Directors meeting, yeah.
Okay.
All right. If we can, we'll move on to the new business. We only have one item, and of course, we'll open up the floor if there's other additional items that any one of the members would like to discuss further. But the meeting date, I put those copies in front of you as well. But we have 2 meeting dates, and what we tried to do is mirror them pretty similar to what we already had on the books for this year. So if you were to look at what you have, let me get there myself. If you remember, this year we had a meeting in March, and then, of course, right now, this September 22nd. Well, those dates are pretty similar and pretty close to that as of next year. Of course, they're on Fridays, March 23rd and September 21st.
I can go ahead and tell you I cannot do September 21st. I'll be in, well, as of right now, I can. I've got a 2-week trial, and that will be the last day.
Any date?
So I can't commit to the 21st.
There's flexibility if there's another date that you think, or another Friday before or after that you think would work best.
Right, because I think the statute on it just requires that we have at least 2 meetings in the calendar year.
Let me look at it. I could do the 28th.
September 28th, Mr. Gibson and Judge Rambo, would that work for you, you two?
Yes.
Works for me too.
Okay, great. Do we have any problems with the March date, March 23rd?
No problem from me.
That appears to be fine for me.
It's fine.
Mr. Houston?
Checking now.
He's hoping he's not going to be here anymore about it. How long am I going to get dragged on this thing?
21st. I'm good.
So we're going to set March 23rd and September 28th?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If we can just have someone make a motion to accept those dates, and then we can go from there.
This is Earl Houston. I move to accept the meeting date for
Ken Gibson, second.
All right, we have a properly seconded motion to adopt March 23rd and September 28th as our meeting dates for 2018. I'll call the roll. Richard Collins votes aye. Ken Gibson?
Aye.
Earl Houston?
Aye.
Judge Rambo?
Aye.
All right, motion passes 4-0 to have our 2018 meetings on March 23rd, 2018, and September 28th, 2018.
Unless there's any other new business that someone would like to discuss, then the chairman, of course, would be free to adjourn.
Anything else?
Nothing from me.
Okay, then we will adjourn the meeting at 9:53.
If we could, since we're on teleconference, just make a motion in that regard.
Okay.
I'm sure I had an opportunity.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Judge Rambo
Ken
moves to adjourn.
Ken Gibson, second.
All right, Ken is seconded. We have a properly seconded motion to adjourn the meeting. I'll call the roll. Britton Collins votes aye. Ken Gibson?
Aye.
Earl Houston?
Aye.
Judge Rambo?
Aye.
All right, motion passes 4-0 to adjourn the meeting. I will call the meeting to adjournment at 9:53.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.